The Cleveland Cavaliers are becoming dangerous. After acquiring Donovan Mitchell over the offseason, a lot of people had very high expectations for this team. And so far this season, I would say the Cavs are playing pretty well, but in my opinion, as the season does progress, I think they're only going to improve. But quickly, before we get the video started, for those of you who may not know, I'm Choosy Sports, I make opinionated NBA content, and if you guys enjoy videos similar to this, hit that subscribe button, that like button, and that post notification bell. I also want to quickly mention that I recently started up an MMA channel, and if you guys are interested in that, the link will be in the description. But anyways, let's get into it. Over the past couple seasons, the Cleveland Cavaliers have done a really nice job at building a nice young core for themselves. They were able to bring in nice young players like Darius Garland, Evan Mobley, Jared Allen, Caris LeVert, even a little more recently, Isaac Okoro. They just added a ton of nice young players that had a nice future going forward. And after their pretty decent season last year, a lot of people were very excited to see what this Cavs team could do going forward. Because if a young team like this looked pretty impressive this early on, you can just imagine how much better they would get in the next 3, 4, or 5 seasons with the young players that they have. Because a lot of young players they had on their roster are really talented players that you would fully expect to only improve as the seasons do progress, like specifically Darius Garland and Evan Mobley, who showed a ton early on. But during this offseason, the Cavs were able to make a significant move that really pushed their timeline forward. They were able to trade for Donovan Mitchell, who at the time most people didn't see this coming. Now they certainly gave away a couple of nice players like Colin Sexton and Larry Markkinen, who's playing out of his mind, but when both of those players were playing for the Cavs, they weren't playing at this level, so at the time it was seen as a good trade for them. And even at this point, I do think it's a win-win for both sides. The Cavs were able to bring in a legitimate superstar in Donovan Mitchell, and the Jazz were able to bring in two guys that turned out to be really good players for them, especially Larry Markkinen. But so far into the season, I would say the Cavs are playing good basketball. They have some stretches where they look phenomenal and they look unstoppable, and they have other stretches where they're struggling. But whenever you bring in a significant piece like Donovan Mitchell, it's always going to take some time to really feel comfortable with everybody and really get that chemistry right. But when you also consider that this is a very young team, it's also going to take some time due to that factor as well. So in my opinion, this is completely normal. And when you actually look at the record that the Cavs have currently, they do have a 29-19 record, which is certainly very good. But in my opinion, before the end of the season, I do think the Cavs are going to improve significantly, and especially once it comes down to the playoffs, I think they're going to become a much better team than they are now. But the question is, why do I feel this way? Why do I think the Cavs are going to get much better as the season does progress? Well, the main factor for why I think the Cavs are only going to improve as the season does progress is something I just touched upon, but that's chemistry. Chemistry on any team is extremely important, but especially when you're talking about a young team like the Cavs, it's just that much more important. And at this point, I wouldn't say the Cavs have bad chemistry whatsoever, because they certainly don't, but I think they could make some improvements in that area. And as the season does progress, and as these players just naturally play together more, their chemistry is naturally just going to get better. So I think due to that factor alone, the Cavs are going to improve. Now how much they improve is remain to be seen, but I certainly think they're going to improve just based upon that factor solely. But another factor for why I think the Cavs are only going to improve as the season does progress is Evan Mobley. Now Evan Mobley was a guy who played very, very well as soon as he came into the NBA. Now he wasn't necessarily a guy that was putting up 20 plus a night, but he was providing a lot of value to the Cavs. He was playing great defense, he was rebounding effectively, he was spreading the court out effectively offensively, he was able to create for himself at times as well, and overall he just looked like a really good player on both ends of the court. But early on into the season, I would say Mobley played well, but he didn't play as well as he did last year. But as the season has been progressing, and especially as of late, Mobley has really turned it up. As actually in his last game, Mobley put up an incredible 38-point performance on very efficient shooting numbers as well. And even besides that one singular game, he's been on a really nice stretch as of late, putting up 17, 19, 19, 18, and 17 points in his last few games respectively. And Mobley is doing a lot of this damage without Donovan Mitchell in the lineup. Now obviously when Donovan comes back in the lineup, there's going to be less opportunities for Mobley, but at the same time I think it's going to make his life easier because the defense is going to focus more on Donovan Mitchell as well as Darius Garland instead of mainly focusing on Evan Mobley at times, as some teams have been as of late. But the last factor for why I think the Cavs are only going to improve as the season does progress, and especially once it comes down to playoff time, is due to Donovan Mitchell. Now, Donovan has been tremendous really ever since he got to the Cavs. He's putting up incredible performances. He's putting up incredible scoring performances on efficient shooting numbers as well. He's doing a nice job at facilitating for his teammates at times as well, and overall, he's just having the best season of his career. On the year, he's averaging 28 points per game on 48% shooting from the field, 3.9 rebounds on 4.8 assists. Just incredible. But as of late, he has been dealing with some injuries here and there, and due to that, the Cavs haven't been as good as they otherwise would have been if Donovan was in the lineup. So that's another reason for why I think when Donovan comes back to the team, I think the Cavs are only going to improve. But especially once it comes down to playoff time, Donovan has proven the ability to play some of his best basketball in the playoffs. So if the Cavs are able to make the playoffs, which in my opinion I fully expect them to do, I think they could be a much better team just by default due to the fact that Donovan will most likely play better in the playoffs than he does during the regular season. But now the question is, what are my expectations for the Cavs for the rest of this season? So as I touched upon before, I fully expect the Cavs to make the playoffs this season. But once it comes down to the playoffs, I do expect them to get past the first round, depending on who they play, I guess. But in the second round, I think it's going to be tougher, but I do think they have the talent to get past that round as well. But I guess it's remained to be seen. But in terms of my expectations, I expect them to get past the first round, but I don't expect them to get much farther than that. But in my opinion, I think they should get farther than that due to the talent they have on the roster. But at the same time, even if they don't, it still would be very encouraging due to all the young talent they have on the roster and due to the fact that they're most likely only going to improve as the seasons do progress. So going forward long term, I am extremely excited about this Cavs roster, and I do think they have a ton of talent and a ton of potential going forward. Within the next 2 or 3 seasons, I do see the Cavs turning into a perennial playoff team and honestly a top 5 or top 4 seed in the East basically every single season. I think the talent they have on the roster is good enough in order to get there, but as the years do progress and as these guys continue to get better, I just think they're going to continue to get better and better. I also think the Cavs may be looking to make another move, maybe not this season, maybe not next season, but down the road, I do think they are looking to make another move to bring in another star. Maybe that means a borderline all-star, maybe that means a legitimate all-star, or maybe even a superstar. It's remained to be seen, but I do think the Cavs eventually want to make another move to bring in another guy. But also, I do think the addition of Donovan Mitchell will be very favorable in the long-term future for the Cavs. You don't necessarily find a player of Donovan's caliber every single day, so whenever you have the opportunity to bring in a player like that, I think you take that opportunity 10 times out of 10, and the Cavs are able to take that opportunity and actually get it done. But also when you consider that Donovan is still very young, he's under contract for the next 5 or 6 seasons, now you're talking about someone who's extremely valuable to your organization. So I think the Cavs did a really nice job at bringing this guy into their organization. But I guess only time will tell what does end up happening with the Cleveland Cavaliers, not only this season, but also in the long-term future. But anyways, let me know what you guys think in the comments. Do you think the Cleveland Cavaliers are only going to improve as the season does progress and as it comes down to playoff time, or do you not think so? But anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and if you did enjoy, check one of these 2 videos popping up now, and until the next time, peace out guys.